Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Courtney.
I'm Justin.
And today we have another location review and reflection for you today. We are going to be talking about Guadalajara, Mexico.
Guadalajara.
Yes, if this is your first time tuning in for one of our location reviews and reflections, we basically just go over a set of criteria from places where we've lived with our children to give you some key factors in case you're planning on visiting or living there. The factors that we go over are climate, transportation, infrastructure, cost of living, family friendliness, a general vibe check, and then at the end, we go over who we think this location would be a good fit for. How is the climate in Guadalajara, Mexico?
So Guadalajara was pretty great. Consistent 70-degree weather every single day. There was a rainy season, so we got there in the summer around June, and it did rain every night, like every single night.
Like clockwork.
Yeah. From about 7 p.m. to 3 in the morning, it would pretty much guaranteed rain, but I would say as long as you were in the house by 7 p.m., it didn't really affect us. And then it probably cleared up by like September, October.
Yeah, we'll have to look exactly like when the technical dates for that are, but it's gonna run you like late summer through early fall, general rule of thumb.
Yeah, and during the dry season, it does not rain at all. So it is, I think, pretty similar to Southern California weather. Again, clear skies consistently in the 70s every single day. So the weather was great.
Yeah, it was really nice. A slight change from summer to winter, but still like you're gonna feel fantastic during the day out and about without a jacket.
Yeah.
That was one of the highlights of being there. I think one of the other things is the climate is dry. This is my first time, I think, really living in like a dry area. That's not super troublesome. I mean, it's certainly better than humidity, but it is one of the other things I noticed. Like we were going through a whole lot of lotion, especially when it was chillier.
Yeah, try not to be ashy in that weather because the water was hard too.
Yes, the water is hard. I think we've noticed that almost consistently throughout like Mexico. A lot of Mexico though.
Yeah.
Even like right here and right now. So like hard water plus dry climate means a lot of lotion, but small price to pay. I think the other thing is it's mountainous. Mm-hmm. So Guadalajara, it's kind of like, what is it, in like a valley a little bit, in like a basin. So you do get some pretty views, and there's a lot of good like hiking and opportunities to get outside, just outside of the city. Also, Lake Chapala is like really close. That is a popular area for a lot of like immigrants and expats, especially those looking to retire. So that's also nice. You have like that little bit of water activity. Even though Guadalajara is landlocked, you have some pretty mountain views, nice temperate, dry climate.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention, there's a few beach towns not too far away, 3-4 hours. So you can get to Sayulita, Puerto Vallarta. You're in the state of Jalisco, so I believe Puerto Vallarta is in Jalisco as well.
Yeah, and then Sayulita is in Nayarit.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Transportation. Getting around Guadalajara. This is probably one of the reasons why we didn't stay in Guadalajara longer. Mm-hmm. And I do think it's also, I would say something I was a little disappointed with was the lack of walkability, at a minimum in the area that we were in. So we stayed in the Providencia neighborhood, and we just had to have a car to get around.
Yeah.
We just had to.
Yeah. I mean, we tried without a car for a while. Mm-hmm. In the neighborhood that we were in, you can walk around your little residential neighborhood, but you can't get to anything significant like the malls, the grocery stores, our kids' school without a car.
Yeah.
So it was a very car-dependent city. I would say the walkability was like 6 out of 10. It wasn't terrible. It's not hilly.
It's not as a suburb.
It's not a suburb.
Not as difficult as like Medellin, like a hilly area.
Yeah, but unless you're staying in Centro, like you probably need a car.
Mm-hmm. Or you find like just the sweet spot where everything is like right there.
Yeah.
But that just wasn't it for us.
Yeah.
We did like kind of Uber, we did like some ride share, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It was consistent, it was reliable, it was good. And then also Guadalajara has a bus system. So we've seen those, they go around. We didn't try the buses out, but I think like a lot of places, they get really packed, like really packed, especially during rush hour. So that is like a consistent means of transportation, but especially considering like rainy season, you don't want to be caught in the rain or in a bus stop or something like that, or even out walking if it is walkable. So transportation, it's there. You can get around. It's definitely not bad. Guadalajara is the second largest city in Mexico, so like they have that sort of stuff built out. But I think for what we enjoy, being able to just kind of like walk everywhere really easily or use like a train system, wasn't it?
It wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Infrastructure. So Guadalajara, being the second largest city in Mexico, has pretty great infrastructure. When it comes to hospitals, schools, anything that you need to live, internet access, electricity, water, all of that was good. Honestly, you wouldn't know the difference between Guadalajara and most major cities in the U.S.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. That's actually one of the reasons why we chose Guadalajara. We moved from the U.S. when Whitley was less than 3 months. So with a new baby and a toddler, and knowing that we were both going to be working once my maternity leave was over, we wanted to make sure we were somewhere where it was just easy to live. And we definitely found that. So Xavier went to school in Guadalajara. They have good quality education. They have a lot of bilingual schools. There's like a Canadian school, a Mexican school there.
Yeah.
They certainly have their public and private. And then as far as, I think we had once or twice where the power went out. Once or twice where the power went out.
A couple
but
outages.
Again, that's like rare, and that happens in lots of places. So I would definitely say the thing with Guadalajara, I think even our apartment building was walking distance to like a hospital.
Yeah.
We took Xavier to the doctor there. So I think Guadalajara meets all the marks for infrastructure and general livability. You're not going to miss anything.
Yeah. They do call it the Silicon Valley of Mexico. And while we were there, we stayed right next to a medical university. So there were a lot of international students and just workers in our building. And so that lets you know that, it does have a lot going for it as far as being like a business hub and a healthcare city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really great. There's nothing that you just can't get in Guadalajara, like Justin just said, that you can get in any other major city. So I do think if you're kind of like exploring expatriation, or you, like us, want to be nomadic, but you have to kind of like ease into that lifestyle so you don't completely shock yourself, Guadalajara is a really good option as far as just sort of like being able to acclimate to living somewhere with all of your infrastructure and livability considerations.
Yeah. Family friendliness. Everywhere in Mexico that we go is pretty high up when it comes to being accepted as a family. The Mexican culture is very family oriented and very kid focused and kid first. So we noticed that, especially in Guadalajara, there was a ton of playgrounds and parks kind of littered all over the city. The airports had like play spaces for kids, and restaurants had a lot of like little play areas and activities for kids to do as well. So kids are definitely welcome there. There are kids at the parks. Our kids made friends with the kids at school and kids in the neighborhood. What did you think about family friendliness?
Yeah, so it was really family friendly. I think we didn't really wind up anywhere where it was like, ooh, should we be here with the kids? Are kids allowed here? Is this okay?
Yeah.
We didn't get any looks or stares from bringing them into, restaurants or any other spaces. And then the nice thing about that is too, there were a lot of like, there's like Wachovia and like Just Jump and like all of these like Gymboree style like indoor play spaces at the malls. And then even like splash pads and things like that, just kind of like peppered throughout outside at the malls everywhere.
For kids, there's a lot to do, indoor and outside. So they have a theme park. We did like an aquarium one day. I think they even had, the aquarium was dope.
Yeah, it
was really nice. And they even had like, other places that you can get to by car, but like there's a lot of attractions for kids. Plenty of kids live there. Plenty of schools were available to us. And so we had no problems at all with our family.
Yeah. Okay, on to the vibe check. So very generally, does Guadalajara pass the vibe check? And what even does vibe check mean? Do we feel safe? Do we feel comfortable? Do we feel accepted? Is it like a welcoming, open environment, right? Where anyone, particularly like us, Black families, can come and feel, like they fit in and they can live a good life.
Yeah.
Overall, I would definitely say yes. I think the people were friendly, the area was nice. It's definitely very livable and we enjoyed our time there. I do think that Guadalajara was sort of like lacking in diversity, which again is part of the reason why we were like, I don't know how long we can like really be here for, but it was really great. We didn't have any issues or problems. There was, I don't think, a single time where we felt uncomfortable. And one of the reasons why we went to Guadalajara in the first place was because the Black expat group for Guadalajara, that community was like really tight. So Xavier wound up going to school with like some people that we met there, and we were hanging out. He had like swim lessons with some other kids, and it was fantastic. So I think it definitely passes the vibe check for me. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. First of all, we felt extremely safe in Guadalajara, especially in Providencia. I would say like the western side of the city is all very like kind of posh, upscale, modern, very safe. And outside of the diversity thing, it did pass the vibe check. There just was not a whole lot of people of color there, and there were not a lot of foreigners, period. So like most of who you see are going to be Mexicans. And so I guess after a while it got a little, if you weren't hanging out with the people in the expat groups, it did get a little boring because no tourists are coming in. It's not a very touristy city. So there's only so much to do. If you do want to just live like a regular quiet life and are okay with being the only foreigner there, shouldn't be an issue at all.
Some people prefer that.
Right.
To be fair, some people prefer that. So like I do want to make that point. I think that for us, especially because we have kids and it can be a little bit more difficult for them to just like integrate than for us in some ways. Being around people that speak the same language and have some of the shared, you know, customs and culture, like whatever, is sort of important. But if you're someone you really want a chance to like immerse yourself like with, you know, local people or people of a different culture, you don't want to be relying on English, you really enjoyed that like full immersion experience, I think Guadalajara is really great for that.
Cost of living. So cost of living in Guadalajara varies, I think, dramatically by your lifestyle, right? Just like most cities.
Yeah, that's the case pretty much anywhere.
But we found that rental apartments in Guadalajara were kind of in the median range, right? They weren't as affordable as we'd seen in other cities in Mexico, certainly not more affordable than the lesser known cities, but it was still, you could still find good deals here and there, whether you were doing furnished or unfurnished.
Yeah. So I think that's one of there are a couple like big factors that go into that, right? Obviously, like where in the city are you renting? If you're somewhere like Country Club or Providencia, it's going to be different than if you're sort of like out in Zapopan or if you're like in Centro. And then of course, we're looking for 3 bedrooms. We're looking for something furnished. So like that right there kind of upticks it. One thing I think about Guadalajara too is that there are a lot of like very new buildings, and then there are like the older buildings. And so that's the last thing that's going to kind of decide. I would say that if you're looking for something furnished, if you're looking for a rental that's maybe like on the shorter end, so that's going to be something like less than 12 months. If you're looking for something that's spacious, 3 bedrooms, like, so kind of like top budget here, right, is what I'm getting at. You could be looking at upwards of $2,000, $2,200 a month, depending. I think that the other thing to mention here is that anytime you talk about housing overseas, you run into the notion of like tourist tax or gringo price or whatever you want to call it, where they're like, you have euros or USD or CAD or whatever it is, let me charge you a little bit more. So that is something to be mindful of when you're looking for housing and when you're touring, to not be afraid to see lots of places, to ask people, you know, if like that price sounds right for them, and then also just to negotiate.
Yeah.
That not only saves you money, but it also stops like the cost of rent just skyrocketing in certain areas, which then goes on to affect local people even more than it already does, right? That expats and immigrants are coming into these locations.
Yeah. We actually hired childcare in Guadalajara, so this is probably the first place that we had childcare outside of the U.S., and we noticed a huge savings on our childcare costs. We hired a nanny for our daughter Whitley. At one point, we had 2 nannies, one for each kid.
That was absurd.
And
Before
how
she
much?
was in school.
An hour, I think they were about $5-6 per hour.
It was less than that. So the conversion has changed.
It has changed.
From, you know, pesos to USD. But we went through an agency, and at the time, the price in USD came out to about $3.50 an hour.
Yeah.
And I will say, in Mexico, it's customary if you have someone coming into your house to help you, like a nanny, you feed them lunch. So like you can factor that into how much it costs, I guess. But yeah, it was like $3.50 an hour.
Yeah. So $3.50 an hour for nanny care. And school. We had Xavier in school. He was in pre-K in the States. It would be equivalent to like a private pre-K up there. And so we were paying about $250 a month for school. And school went from about 8 in the morning to 2 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah.
They had uniforms, they did karate class, it was bilingual, they learned Spanish and English. And yeah, for $250 a month, we could not be happier with the price of childcare.
Yeah.
Along with other services too. Like we had our laundry done every week. Probably paid like
Shout out to Nana Plancha.
Shout out to Nana Plancha. We probably paid like $7 a week for our clothing to be washed, dried and folded. You got your nails done, eyelashes done. I got my hair cut regularly. We saw huge savings in all of these areas.
Yeah.
For services.
Yeah, for sure. The services definitely were cheaper, which is fantastic. I think the consumer goods, not so much.
No.
I'm trying to remember exactly. Grocery shopping still seems like it kind of
depends. If you went to the bodega, you would definitely save a lot of money. These are the smaller, more local grocery stores and fruterias. But if you just went to a big chain grocery store, like there was a Walmart next to our house, and the price was the same as back home, pretty much.
Even the Chittery, Soriano, those big box stores are gonna be, in most major cities in Mexico, pretty equivalent to in the US. Sometimes you're gonna even hit more tax for just brands that you know or recognize because it's imported, so it's gonna be more. I know a lot of people that do a mix of like, there are certain things we just get from the big box stores and then we make a run to the local markets for like meat, produce, things of that nature. So that is one way to save if you're looking to cut cost on consumer goods right there.
Yeah. We definitely ate out a good bit as well. So sitting down at a restaurant, we would spend for a family of 4, and Whitley was a baby, so really like a family of 3.5. Like we would spend about $25 US, $30 US on a meal.
But
we
then
ordered
there's
a lot
the
of
delivery.
Rappi.
Yeah.
Rappi will get you.
Rappi got us.
So be warned, when you go to Latin America, they have a Rappi. It's pretty much like Uber Eats, but they'll bring you anything. They'll bring you whatever you need from whatever store, from the pharmacy, from the restaurants, grocery stores. They even pull out cash for you. They could be like your mobile bank. So but it adds
Rappi's
up.
Dope.
It adds up.
It does.
Yeah.
It definitely does. Rappi got us, y'all. So all in all, we loved our time living in Guadalajara. It being the first place we really lived outside of the U.S., it holds a special place in our heart. If you have been to Guadalajara, or if you have any questions about visiting or living in Guadalajara, make sure to drop us a comment, and we will see y'all in the next one.